mine, y'all. Y'all think it's me. I'm telling you, it's her.
Start your day with that. That is my message to the world.
Welcome to the
Inspiring
Purpose Podcast. I'm Rondo Davis.
And I'm Lisa Davis.
We are your co-hosts, and we are so excited that you're here. We believe that when every person steps into their purpose, they're able to solve a problem that God put them on the earth to solve. And when each of us step into that purpose individually, collectively, we can change the world.
Amen.
We have an incredible guest today that I'm so excited to introduce by the name of Charles Crouch. And I'm going to tell you a quick story before I tell you anything else about him, because I think it will paint the picture of the level of character and influence that this amazing man has. And that is during a season when you and I were RVing. It was such a fun season. Believe it or not, y'all, we RV'd with all of our kids for like 2 years. It was awesome. There were some challenges, obviously, right? You have a lot of people in a little space. You either going to love each other or kill each other. Thank God we chose to love each other. We got 2 more kids out of the deal, so that tells you a little something.
There you go.
But it was a great time, and one day we came across a family that was coming into the resort where we were staying, and we immediately hit it off and became friends. And little did I know that Charles Crouch and his lovely wife and their family would become friends in our life that would build a long-term relationship. And I knew that he served in the military, in the Navy, for quite a few years. So big shout out to all of our veterans. I want to say thank you so much for your service. We honor you. We salute you. Thank you for being the heroes of our day. And we would not enjoy the freedom that we enjoy today if it wasn't for the sacrifice that you're willing to make. So Charles, thank you for your service. And thank you guys for serving our country as well. And I want to jump right in, Charles, and I want to welcome you to our podcast. And I want to save the thunder for you. So I'm not going to give your title when you were in the military. But I know that when you guys hear this, you're going to be very, very inquisitive, and you're going to be excited about all the amazing things you're going to get to learn during this show. Okay. So Charles, welcome to the podcast. We're so excited that you're here.
Man, I love you guys. This is so cool. And about that day that we came into Texas, it was October 14th, 2019, pre-pandemic. We didn't come post-pandemic to Texas. So there you go. But that day was the craziest day. There was warfare on us coming to Texas. We thought we were going to be settling down in Idaho. What we were trying to do in Idaho was like door shut, door shut, door shut. So we're like, let's go to Texas. We didn't know anybody in Texas except one family that moved here 10 years ago. So we get across the Texas border and I hit a deer.
Oh my goodness.
And 65 mile an hour RV and deer, I won. The deer did not. And then our septic tank overflowed in the RV that day, and we met you guys. So, 3 big things in one day. You guys redeemed that whole day.
Good. I want to say
that day was wrecked.
I was about to say, when you said septic, hit a deer, septic, it can only go downhill, but thank God it went up.
Yes.
So I think everybody who's RV'd knows the deal with the tanks and all that. So
absolutely, that's
you gotta
wonderful.
Be careful. But that was awesome. Yeah, I got to serve in Big Boys Club. SEAL teams in the Navy. I got to.
So real quick, for those who don't know, he is a former U.S. Navy SEAL. So I want to put that out there. And the interesting thing about this is he and I were friends for over a year, and I didn't even know. And I was like, I got a bone to pick with you, bro. I didn't know you were a Navy SEAL. And he was like, well, listen, if you were going to be my friend because I'm a Navy SEAL, then you're not really my friend.
It's true.
And he and I were friends before that. And I love the character that you carry because you never, ever threw that out.
No.
And we were just friends. So talk about your journey of becoming a Navy SEAL and how you got to where you are today. We love to hear about that because we hear people talk about it like, hey, I got this friend that's a Navy SEAL. And we hear preachers talk about it, speakers talk about it, but I've never seen someone sit down across from a living Navy SEAL and actually have a conversation. So for those of you who want to talk to a real Navy SEAL, this is your opportunity right now. So Charles,
I'm also excited. I mean, because I've heard just bits of your story. I'm excited to hear about some of the low points, the trials that you've gone through. Because to see you sitting here today, somebody will look at you and be like, "No way."
No way. He's way too handsome to be a Navy SEAL.
That's true. Well, that's who is the SEAL, and who are the ones you should be careful with is the person in the quiet guy in the corner of the room. They're the ones that are tough and can suffer. But when I was 13, my father, who was a pastor, came home one day and he was a different man. He didn't tell us that day, but I found out the head elder of his church had committed incest with his stepdaughter. And within a month, the church was gone. He had tried to hold it together unsuccessfully, and it wrecked him. I saw what the church did to him, and I figured if God was real, it's not Jesus, and those people are evil. And that was the first of 3 church splits I saw, but when you're 13 and 14, your mind is kind of developing about the world. I figured if God's real, I'm going to be him. And the closest and fastest way to do that was the SEAL teams. I was becoming my own idol and God. Wow. I figured okay, it's probably one of those other gods out in the world. So I decided to become it. I went to the hardest challenge the military had to offer in total idolatry. And so the SEAL thing to me isn't really a close thing, because after you find Jesus, it trumps everything else you ever done. So there were a couple times that I went in to ask my dad for money as a teenager for $20. You know how it is. You guys, kids, ask you for money all the time. Daddy, open your wallet. I want some cash. So I asked him for some money, and I found him, knock, open the door. I found him by his bedside praying twice. And I don't think it was by accident that I needed $20 right then. I think the Holy Spirit was showing me things in my childhood. When I saw him in there praying, I always kind of judged him for not walking away from the Lord as well. I thought, if anyone has a reason, it's you. Look what the church did to you. God didn't come and help you out. And so what's it worth? But he was faithful. And to this day, I will tell you, your portion is Jesus.
Come on.
That's the blessing. And so all his kids serve the Lord, and all his grandkids serve the Lord.
Wow, look at that.
What more could you want? Versus the other side of the coin. A lot of people who seek after other things can't say that. He is a valuable man when he's in his room with his grandkids. Wow. He's happy. My mom, she's just enjoying the grandkids. And so the Lord got to show me that. I went off and pursued the SEALs, and they gave me a gun, and they sent me off to war, and all the cool stuff. My platoon was the most diverse platoon, I think, in the history of the SEAL teams, and I got to get a real-world education of racism. But we were brothers, and we joked about it, and it was really fun. And but we went to war together. We got 90 guys in 180 days, 90 bad guys in 180 days, which is an incredible op tempo. One operation every 3 days is full speed. We did one every 2 days for 6 months. We did a lot of stuff. To plan it and execute it and communicate to all the different units about it takes a long time. So we did a lot. And I actually wrote a book about the war after that. But the Lord spoke to me and said, I want you to be a family man.
Come on. And
so I went to my buddies and I said, I'm getting out. And they said, you just did your first deployment. You just got into the club, because in the SEAL teams, you really don't know the job until after your first deployment, when all this stuff comes together and you see how it works.
Wow.
So what is the significance of the Navy SEALs? Because maybe you guys know because you're from a military background, but somebody like me was what's the significance of that? Can you maybe just give us one of the challenges that you had to do, or what's the stats of the people that apply to actually make it? Why is Navy SEALs the
That's a great question.
So we have some of the best ratios of success, mission success.
Okay.
As our percentage is a little higher than everyone else. And the Navy SEALs are like the Special Forces and Army Rangers or the SWAT teams, and we go and get bad guys all over the world. We get them and bring them in, hopefully alive. Sometimes not, but they're a danger to the U.S. So what that means is they need to call the big boys. So they put us through tough training. And I think the reason that we have a little bit more success is the fact that we're only being asked to do something on dry land versus we train to do it on the water.
Oh,
it's so much easier when you take the water out of it. And so you don't have to waterproof your gear. You don't have to be buoyant. You don't have to have rust proof. You don't have to do all these things when you're driving down the road.
Wow.
And so you feel, it's just a little bit harder training when you're incorporating the water stuff.
Okay.
That's a great question. So can you talk a little bit about, I know inquiring minds right now, if I was watching this, I would want to know, is it true that you guys can literally go down to the bottom of the ocean and take a nap?
With the right equipment.
Really?
100%.
Wow.
And it depends what kind of air you're breathing. And so, or if you have a submarine.
Okay.
So the atmosphere compresses and bubbles get smaller. And so those bubbles digest into your body. But if you come up too quick, those bubbles expand and you can get a stroke, aneurysm, blood clot. So you got to come up slow so your body and metabolism can digest those bubbles out. Dive physics.
Wow.
If you had a submarine.
Natural bubbles that your body creates as you go down?
Yeah, you have bubbles in you right now all over the place. In your blood, in your organs. Your lungs are bubbles. Okay. Right? If you hold your breath and come up just 3 feet, it can kill you.
What?
Yeah, the little alveoli in your lungs can just perforate. And that's a bad day at the office if you do that.
Woo. So if you could talk to our audience and share one of the biggest challenges. First of all, what are the ratios for people who actually try to become a Navy SEAL and successfully qualify to become or be a Navy SEAL?
My class started with 250 and we graduated 42 people. 41 of those graduates got to the SEAL teams because there's a little attrition after training with the different layers of things that need to get incorporated. So what is that? 20%?
That's about 20%.
15 to 20%. Now you're talking about guys who
that's a little higher than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
To be honest, I thought that it would be a lower percentage than that.
But they're probably already at a certain level if they think they can even make it.
Is that true?
So these are the guys that showed up. Think of all the people that showed up to be quarterback, linebacker.
Right.
There's a lot of guys.
That makes sense.
But they were already tough because they thought they could make it.
That makes sense.
We had an Olympic swimmer in my class and he quit.
Wow.
He was used to winning. And so you think like the physical attributes. I want to be in the NFL. Yeah. I did. I didn't make it. So I went to the SEALs, which is like the Navy's football team, except we get shot at.
I was going to say, it's a big difference. I mean, playing football in an arena is a completely different thing than being shot at and realizing that your life could end at any moment, okay? I love my football players, like athletes, I love you guys, but it doesn't even compare to what these guys are doing. Like, these are the real warriors, these are real heroes. So
it's actually really similar because you're executing a play. Yeah. And you have layers in that play, right? I would say every mission is like a trick play, right? You're focused on executing that and making the trick happen.
Yeah.
So that's my favorite is when I'm watching football, the trick plays.
Yeah.
Because there's such a dynamic of intuition too.
Come on.
The coaches and the quarterback and anyways.
So take us through this. So as everyone's listening and they're thinking through this, wow, Navy SEALs, 20% make it, athletes, I think all of us want to drill down into our lives in a way where we can say, how does this apply to me?
Yeah.
And if I were to take a leadership lesson, you mentioned this book that you've written, and this is the book that Charles has written here called A Leader After God's Own Heart. And this is incorporating character, it's incorporating purpose into your life in a way that will sustain you for what God has for you. So when you were to think through this book and write this book, if you were to apply the leadership lessons that you learned in the Navy SEALs that separate the 80% from the 20% and allow you to be successful in reaching that goal, whatever that is, what would you say are the most important aspects of that in terms of how we can apply that in our day-to-day lives?
Well, we all want to be leaders, right? There's a lot of leadership books out there. but your character is the only thing you bring to heaven.
Mm.
You ain't bringing your successes, your house, your car, your gold. In the end of times, everyone's going to throw their gold out in the street. In the military, we learn certain leadership lessons that worked in the military, but they are hurdles and speed bumps in the civilian world. And you're gonna hurt a lot of feelings in the civilian world. In the civilian world, you learn leadership principles that if you did those in the military, they're going to eat you alive. Mm. A good leadership principle is one that works in the military and the civilian world, and God teaches it in the Bible.
Come on.
That's a leader after God's own heart, because one day we're all going to stand before him and give an account for what we've done. And the devil is going to be right there accusing us that we've fallen. And so there's a lot of leadership stuff out there that you can absorb. I would measure it up against the Bible. So every principle, 31 of them, 31 principles and a bonus principle are going to set you up for failure, because you know what? Leadership is not a seniority promotion. A lot of people want to be leaders, but seniority doesn't promote you from management to leadership. Yeah. That is a character promotion, and everybody's watching for you to be ready. You be ready. You watch your boy to see when he's ready for X and Y and Z. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You know? And have you done your chores? Have you treated your sisters right?
Yes.
You're waiting for him to be able to give him these things. God is with us. And people see flaws in you that you don't see in yourself. Right. Mm-hmm. And thing is about the world we live in is they're not going to tell you. Mm. So A Leader After God's Own Heart is a leadership book with an activation. It's like a self-help book, but you activate it. And Mondo, you're an active guy. A lot of times, I would say this: if you have read a lot of self-help books for 20 years, mm-hmm. and you're really still in the same spot, that means you haven't activated it. Mm. Yeah. And I've seen a lot of people,
overload of information.
Yeah, but you're still the same.
Yeah.
Because you have these habits in your mind, deep in your subconscious. Like, have you ever gotten in the car and driven somewhere and you don't really think about where you're going, but all of a sudden you're like, you pull up and you park and you're like, how did I get here?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, that's your subconscious. That's your habits taking over, and you're not really in control of them. They're your habits. They're just what you do. There's a cookie. Yum. Oh my gosh.
Did I just eat that cookie?
Did I just eat that whole pint of ice cream? What the world? The chips, the whole bag. Boom.
We have
happens all the time.
Yeah. Self-help books don't help you unlearn or rewire. And activating it is tough.
Yeah.
Tough to do. So I ask you to do some difficult things in there. Just the fact that you do them is the promotion.
So what I hear you saying, Charles, is everything that you learned from the SEALs, mm-hmm. everything that you learned from your relationship with God, and everything you learned corporately in regard to leadership, you've packaged in this book.
Yeah. And the Lord made me.
And you have 31 principles in this book. So
with application.
Yeah.
So could you unpack one of those principles for our listeners?
Hold on, babes. Wait a minute, because I'm a story person.
We want to hear the story.
The point of telling us, okay, he had just achieved. He made it. He's a SEAL now. That's a big deal.
That's huge.
And
we skated over it.
Yeah, like I'm still there. Like, and then the Lord said, become a family man. Like,
yeah, that's
can
good.
You take us from that point? What does that mean? Was he saying leave, or
Yeah, he called me out of it, and I had two guys specifically, and a few others, but two guys cornered me and did like a little intervention thing, and they're like, "Listen, Charles, you just got in the club. Don't get out, because if you leave the SEALs, you're going to never come back to this spot ever again where you're at." And there is a $125,000 re-enlistment bonus. And
wow.
I mean, I'm 23. And I said, the Lord told me to be a family man. Peace out.
Wow.
And the Lord said, just like you're the best of the best in the military, I want you to be the best of the best in the family.
Come on.
No one better, except Mondo Davis.
Is it hard to be a family man in the SEALs? Like, was he saying, like, how did you know he was saying leave the SEALs versus like, I just want you to prioritize your family?
I'm pointing the same tools I learned in the military at the family. Loving my wife, loving my kids, right? And I didn't have like the guide for it either. Mm-hmm. But now we have a marriage retreat we do to help couples become one. Now we have a father-son retreat that we do to help fathers and sons connect their hearts, just like the book of Malachi says, the spirit of Elijah.
So you feel like you became more of a family man. Like you were really able to focus in once you left. You were able to give it your full attention. Yeah. You weren't able to do that while you were in?
No, do you know the divorce rate of the SEAL teams?
I don't. No. That's
what do you know the divorce rate of the NFL players?
I know that within 3 years that the level is very high. I think it's like 70%, 80%.
That's pretty high.
Don't quote me. Yeah,
because the national average is like 50%.
Yeah.
98% of SEALs get divorced. You're talking op-tempo, deployments, training. You are living that job. So for me, I saw it's a fork in the road.
Okay.
What wants me to be a family
That's good. Man? That's good.
You know, so.
And at this point, you weren't married? Or anything? Yeah. You were or you weren't?
I waited to propose till after deployment in case anything happened to me. But the Lord protected me. I came back, and the day I came back, I asked her father for her hand. He said, what'd he say? Oh, what'd he say? He said, he goes, are you going to provide for her? I said, yes, sir. And he goes, okay, it's just fine.
Really?
And I actually had the ring in my pocket, and that night I proposed. So
that's amazing. Do you think he was thinking he's a SEAL? He can kill me if he doesn't. You know, if I say no, he's just going to kill me anyway. And nobody will ever know because I'll just disappear.
You know, he was
probably scared a little bit.
He was thinking this guy's getting out of the military. What's he going to do?
Yeah. Right, that's what I was thinking.
That's true. That's true.
You just asked to marry my daughter, okay, but now you don't have a job, or maybe you did at that point.
Yeah. That's amazing. You're so good at this. Do you have any other questions?
No, yeah,
you should do this more often.
Stop.
You're driving the ship. What comes?
Do you have any other questions?
I'm just so curious because he's heard everything. I
haven't heard everything.
I've heard different points, about the accident and stuff like that, and so I'm like a little kid. Like,
what out of body experience in the accident. Looked down at my body. 10-month recovery. My pelvis was in 13 different pieces.
Wait a minute, accident.
Hold on. A motorcycle accident where this guy didn't have Jesus and was running from the cops. And whenever you're not obeying the Lord or your parents' kids, you're going to fall down and get hurt. And that's what I did. The cop that was chasing me saved my life. 10-month recovery.
Why were you running? Like, why were you driving away?
Yeah. And you were on a motorcycle.
Because that was my heart.
You on a motorcycle?
I am this invincible Navy SEAL. Oh. And that pride of becoming my own God went right to my head.
Wow.
And so when I got saved, the Lord delivered me of that pride.
Come on.
And now people our culture idolizes NFL athletes and Navy SEALs and Special Forces. Whoa.
Right.
We've already checked this box, so it's a little less to us. To me, it's rubbish. Mm-hmm. It really is filthy rags because before the Lord, it's not important. I learned some things that I can apply to the family and fathers and sons and marriages that work. But God is so cool. God is so good. Of my friends who were in the military, their lives have been wrecked. Their family lives. They're married. They have multiple marriages in their background that aren't good. They're serving the bottle. They don't sleep at night. What more could you want? Their kids don't know them.
Wow.
My kids hug me every day.
Come on.
My wife tells me I'm a man of God.
Come on.
What more could you want? I think God is pretty cool.
That's amazing.
And so you almost lost your life and didn't even know the Lord.
Yeah, I had an out-of-body experience where I looked down on myself and...
Hold on, I've heard this story, and I want to make sure that they're not missing. This is really important. Hold on. So you told me part of the story, and I want to just kind of give the snippet version, but then I'm going to pitch it to you. So you said you were on a motorcycle. You had somebody with you on the motorcycle.
This is who I was, a girl that wasn't my girlfriend.
Okay.
That night.
And then you're running from the cops with her on the back of the bike with you.
And I downshifted, and I took off, and I was getting away. Just like I had a few other times.
Wow.
And then a minivan pulled out in front of me. And God said, not today. And he put an end to my foolishness. And I avoided the minivan, but racers, bike people know, you have to shift your weight before you can turn. So I avoided the minivan, but I ran up, and I couldn't overcorrect and miss the curb. The curb hit my front wheel and it jackknifed, and I flew 60 feet and came down on a fire hydrant that I have visited since.
So how did you land on the fire hydrant?
I landed with my pelvis and my spleen. So
you're face down on this fire hydrant,
like you're hugging it.
And you had flown 60 feet and landed on this fire hydrant like that.
The only good part about it is that I cushioned her fall.
Wow.
And she only broke her arm.
Wow.
So she landed right on top of you.
Yeah.
Wow.
My spleen perforated, my liver perforated, my large intestine perforated, and my small intestine perforated in 3 different spots.
Oh my gosh.
I should have been dead.
Wow.
But no. I went into the hospital. The doctors are like, a normal person would have died. You survived that because you're in such phenomenal shape. And then my body leaked 1.5 liters of blood into my abdomen, and I should have died. But they rushed me to emergency surgery.
Is that when you had the out-of-body experience?
Yeah, they put me in a drug-induced coma for 7 days, in which my out-of-body experience was like a dream that I remember. And I saw my girlfriend, not the girl on my bike, but my girlfriend, and my orthopedic surgeon, and a pastor praying for me.
Come on.
And I remember it. I didn't know who the pastor was until after I came out of a coma. He came and visited me in my hotel room, and he started speaking. And I said, I know your voice, but I don't know you. How do I know your voice? And he goes, yeah, I was here. I prayed for you. And I said, you were standing there, and she was standing there, and he was standing there. And he goes, that's right. How do you know that? I said, I saw it. Still unsaved. Still didn't believe in Jesus at the time. But I had this experience.
When you had that experience, I'm just imagining, like, were you kind of like up, like up higher, looking down? I mean, was there a light behind you? Did you hear like the angels in the background? Or
no angels? No.
Like, don't go to the light. Don't do it. Wait.
It was just like a dream.
Just like a dream.
No emotion, like a camera on the ceiling.
Yeah.
That's it.
Did you feel like you were dying, or did you know you were dying, or like what was going on through your mind?
Like, were you able to process like that's me, and I'm like about to die? Nothing.
It was like a memory, like a dream you remembered from last night.
Wow.
So I thought that was it. I woke up from that, and the doctors are like, "You should have died. The only reason you're here is because of your great health and emergency surgery." And modern medicine caught it before it was too late. They left some stomach pieces in me after surgery, which got absorbed in my body a few weeks later, and my body became septic, which means you have bacteria in your blood.
Because you had all those pieces in your intestines.
And I spiked 104, 105 something temperature.
Man.
And they called a code on me while I was awake.
Wow.
And they proceeded to have take my family out of the room, and all the doctors and nurses came in, and they put me in another drug-induced coma. And I woke up from that in the ICU.
Like weeks later, a couple of days later?
I actually don't know.
Okay.
I woke up from that, and the ICU nurse is right there with me, and she said, you should have died. We saved you. And we filtered your blood and gave you antibiotics. And I said to her, I don't deserve this.
Come on. Baby, I'm not running around looking for nobody else. I've got one thing